Ever wondered why your money seems to vanish before the month ends? It's a common predicament, one that many of us face. The culprit? A lack of personal budgeting. You see, managing your finances goes beyond just earning and spending. It's about understanding where your money is going, and more importantly, planning where it should go. Picture this. You're navigating through a dense forest. A budget is like your compass, guiding you through the wilderness of financial decisions, from the towering trees of rent or mortgage payments, through the underbrush of monthly streaming services, to the clearings of your basic needs and wants. When we don't budget, we often find ourselves lost, grappling with money management issues like overspending, debt accumulation, and a lack of savings. But with a good budget, we can chart a clear path through the forest, avoiding these pitfalls. Understanding personal budgeting could be the key to unlocking your financial freedom. The first step to a successful budget starts with understanding your income. One might think, well, isn't that simple? I know how much I make. But it's not just about the gross figure on your paycheck, it's about understanding your net income, the amount you take home after taxes and other deductions. To calculate this, subtract all your deductions from your gross pay. This might include income tax, national insurance, pension contributions, and so forth. Now, you might have a single source of income, such as your salary, but for many of us, our income streams can be as diverse as a babbling brook. Perhaps you have a side hustle selling your handmade crafts or offering freelance services. Maybe you have investments that bring in dividends or rental properties that provide a steady flow of cash. Or perhaps you receive government benefits, alimony, child support, or grants. When you're calculating your monthly income, you must include all these sources. Every penny counts when you're budgeting. Remember, it's not just about the big river of your salary, but also the trickling streams that together form your financial landscape. Why is this so important? Because if you underestimate your income, you might set a budget that's unnecessarily restrictive. You could be living a life of frugality when you could afford a few luxuries. On the other hand, if you overestimate your income, you might find yourself overspending, sinking into debt, and struggling to stay afloat. Let's be clear, understanding your income isn't about counting your riches or bemoaning your lack thereof. It's about facing the reality of your financial situation, whether it's a roaring waterfall or a modest stream. In the grand scheme of budgeting, your income is like a compass. It shows you where you are now, and it helps you chart a course to where you want to be. It allows you to plan, to dream, and to make those dreams a reality. An accurate understanding of your income sets the stage for a realistic budget. And that, dear listeners, is the first step towards financial freedom. Now let's dive into expenses, the other side of the budgeting equation. Expenses, in simple terms, are the cost of living. They include everything you spend your money on, from a morning cup of joe to the roof over your head. To understand how to create a budget, we first need to take a detailed look at our expenses. Expenses can be broken down into two main categories: fixed and variable. Fixed expenses are those that don't change from month to month. They're the bills you can predict and are usually the first to be considered when setting up a budget. These include your rent or mortgage, utilities like water and electricity, and monthly subscriptions such as your favorite streaming services. Variable expenses, on the other hand, are the costs that change from month to month. These include your grocery bills, dining out, entertainment, and personal care. Variable expenses can be more difficult to predict, but they're also the area where you have the most control. You can't easily change your rent, but you can certainly decide to cook at home more often or cut back on movie nights. To itemize your expenses, start by listing all your fixed costs. Then, track your variable expenses for a month or two to get an idea of where your money is going. There are plenty of apps that can help with this, or you could go old school and use a pen and paper. The key is to be thorough and honest with yourself. Don't forget those little daily expenses. A morning latte might seem small, but it can add up over time. Once you've categorized and understood your expenses, you can start to make informed decisions about where to cut back and where you might have a little wiggle room. This is where budgeting becomes more of an art than a science. It's about finding a balance that lets you live comfortably while also achieving your financial goals. Remember, the key to successful budgeting is honesty about your expenses. It's not about making yourself miserable by cutting out all the things you enjoy, but rather understanding where your money is going and making smart choices about your spending. A key aspect of budgeting is distinguishing between needs and wants. Now, the terms needs and wants might seem straightforward, but when it comes to budgeting, the waters can get a little murky. So let's dive in and clarify these concepts. Basic needs are those absolute essentials that we simply cannot do without. They form the bare minimum required for survival and a decent standard of living. We're talking about things like food, shelter, clothing, healthcare, and transportation. These are non-negotiables. They're the things we need to put money aside for first and foremost when we're planning our budget. Then we have wants. Wants are things that enhance our lives, but aren't strictly necessary for survival. They could be anything from that fancy latte you enjoy every morning to the latest smartphone or a weekend getaway. While these things are nice to have, they're not essential. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing inherently wrong with spending money on wants. After all, we all deserve to indulge a little now and then. The key here is balance. It's about making sure that we're not spending so much on our wants that we're compromising our ability to meet our basic needs. So, how do we prioritize needs over wants in a budget? Well, it all starts with a clear understanding of your income and expenses. Once you've got a handle on these, you can begin to allocate funds to your needs first. Then, whatever is left over can be used for your wants. Remember, it's not about completely cutting out your wants, it's about making sure your needs are met first. One useful strategy could be to use a percentage-based budgeting system. For example, you might decide to allocate 70% of your income to needs, 20% to savings, and the remaining 10% to wants. It's a simple, flexible system that can help ensure your needs are always covered. In the end, the goal is to create a sustainable budget that allows you to live comfortably, while also enjoying the little luxuries that make life enjoyable. A budget that prioritizes needs over wants is a budget that works. Savings, often the forgotten child of budgeting. Let's delve into the world of savings, shall we? Savings serve as the financial safety net that catches you when life throws unexpected curveballs. Maybe your car breaks down, or your fridge calls it quits. Maybe you lose your job or face a health crisis. These are the times when your savings swoop in as the financial superhero, ready to save the day. So how do we incorporate savings into our budget? There are many strategies, but let's start with 3 popular ones. First, there's the pay yourself first method. This strategy involves setting aside a specific amount or percentage of your income for savings before allocating the rest to your expenses. It's like giving yourself a high five for your hard work before anyone else gets a chance. Second, we have the 50-30-20 rule. This guideline suggests dividing your income into 3 categories: 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings. It's a simple, straightforward approach that makes budgeting and saving a breeze. Lastly, we have the savings goal strategy. This method is perfect for those who have a specific target in mind, like saving for a house, a car, or a dream vacation. You decide how much you need, when you need it by, and save accordingly. How much should you save each month? Well, that's a personal decision that depends on your income, expenses, and financial goals. However, a good rule of thumb is to aim to save at least 20% of your income each month. If that's not attainable right now, don't fret. Even a little can go a long way over time, so start with what you can and build from there. Remember, the goal is not just to save, but to save wisely. It's about creating a healthy financial future, one where you're not just surviving, but thriving. Savings are not an afterthought, but an integral part of a sound budget. So let's give savings the attention it deserves and make it a priority in our personal budgeting journey. You'll thank yourself later. Trust me on this one. Life is full of surprises, and so is budgeting. As we journey through this financial landscape, we must be mindful of the unexpected costs that can pop up along the way. Let's take pet costs, for example. Having a furry companion can bring immeasurable joy to our lives, but it also comes with its own set of expenses. From food and toys to regular vet checkups and potential medical treatments, these costs can add up quickly. And let's not forget the unexpected events, like your cat deciding to use your new sofa as a scratching post, or your dog developing a sudden fondness for your favorite pair of shoes. So how do we incorporate such costs into our budget? Well, the first step is to anticipate them as much as possible. Research typical costs related to pet ownership and set aside a portion of your budget for these expenses. This could be a fixed monthly amount or a percentage of your income. Now let's shift gears and talk about another common, unexpected expense: car repairs. There's nothing quite like the sinking feeling of your car breaking down, especially when you're not financially prepared for it. To avoid such situations, it's wise to establish a car maintenance fund. This is a separate pool of money that you contribute to each month, specifically for car-related expenses. Just like with pet costs, the key here is anticipation. If you know that your car will need new tires in the next 6 months, start setting aside money for it now. If your car is older and more prone to issues, consider allocating a larger portion of your budget to this fund. In conclusion, budgeting for unexpected expenses is all about preparation and flexibility. It's about expecting the unexpected and being financially ready to handle it when it comes. A good budget is flexible enough to accommodate life's little surprises. Creating a budget is easy. Sticking to it, that's where the challenge lies. Indeed, the art of budgeting isn't just about setting financial boundaries. It's about navigating those boundaries with grace and finesse, even when temptation beckons. Start by tracking your spending. This might sound tedious, but it's an effective way to stay accountable. Every penny, every pound matters. You might be surprised at how quickly small purchases can add up. From that daily coffee to the occasional retail therapy, it all counts. So, keep a record and review it regularly. You'll soon start to see patterns and areas where you can make improvements. Next, consider making a habit of reviewing your budget regularly. This doesn't mean you have to scrutinize it every day, but setting aside time each week or month to go over your finances can help keep you in check. It's like a financial health checkup, a time to celebrate your successes and identify areas where you might be veering off course. But what if you do veer off course? Well, that's where adjustments come in. Your budget isn't set in stone. It's a living, breathing entity that can and should change as your life does. If you find that you're consistently overspending in one area, it might be time to reassess. Perhaps you need to allocate more money to that category, or maybe you need to cut back elsewhere to make up for it. Whatever the case, don't be afraid to make changes. Flexibility is key. Remember, your budget is there to serve you, not to restrict you. It's a tool to help you reach your financial goals, not a prison sentence. So, be kind to yourself. You're allowed to make mistakes and learn from them. You're allowed to celebrate when you stick to your budget and make progress towards your goals. Remember, a budget is a living document. It evolves as your financial situation changes. So embrace the art of budgeting, and you'll soon find that sticking to your budget isn't just possible, it's empowering. So, what have we learned about budgeting today? We've taken an in-depth look at creating a personal monthly budget, a journey that began with understanding income. We've discovered that the first step in budgeting is gaining a clear view of your income, the foundation upon which all your spending and saving actions rest. Next, we delved into itemizing expenses, a key component of effective budgeting. We learned that tracking where every penny goes, from rent or mortgage payments to the cost of monthly streaming services, is crucial. It's like a financial magnifying glass, giving us a detailed look at our spending habits. We also examined the intriguing concept of basic needs versus wants. This is where we differentiate between what we truly need to survive and what we desire. It's a distinction that often requires a dose of honesty and self-reflection. Then, we discussed the role of savings. We learned that savings serve as a financial buffer, protecting us from unforeseen expenses and helping us achieve our long-term financial goals. It's like having a financial superhero in our corner, ready to save the day when we need it most. Our journey then took us to the realm of pet costs and other unexpected expenses. We discovered that these costs, often overlooked, can significantly impact our budget and that it's essential to factor them in. Next, we explored the art of sticking to your budget. We learned that consistency is key and that it's okay to make adjustments as life changes. It's not about perfection, but about making progress. So here we are, at the end of our journey, with a better understanding of budgeting. It's important to remember that budgeting is not a one-time event, but a continuous process. It requires discipline, commitment, and a willingness to make conscious decisions to improve your financial health. In conclusion, budgeting is more than just crunching numbers. It's about taking control of your finances, making informed decisions, and ultimately leading a more financially secure life. Budgeting is not just about numbers, it's about making conscious decisions to improve your financial health.